Hello and welcome to How Not to Play, the channel where I play Magic badly. Today we are continuing our How to Play on Magic Arena, focusing on the new player to Arena and what you want to do to kind of get started into this wonderful game. Um, so we've already gone through the basic Arena interface. We've gone through what all this stuff means. We have gone over the tutorial battles and how best to do those. But now, once you've finished your tutorial battles, you're just kind of dumped into this game. Um, so you've got your interface that honestly isn't very self-explanatory, which is why I made that first video. And from here, you don't really know what to do. I mean, Sparky flies around and shows you some things, but I'm here to hopefully do a little bit better. So after you've completed your basic tutorial, you know kind of how to play the game. Where do you go from there? Generally, I will go here to this events tab off of your play button. You can go into your events, and I would look at 3 major categories for your new player. The first one that we're going to go over today is going to be the Color Challenge. After that, we have our Starter Deck Duels, which is kind of a continuation of the Color Challenge. Whereas in the Color Challenge, you go over each color individually. In the Starter Deck Duels, you get to work with the color pairs together. So not just white, but white-blue. And also the third one that I would look into as a new player just getting into Magic is going to be these jump-in events. There's currently 2 running as of the filming of this video. Your standard jump-in and jump-in to Middle-earth. They're both basically the same and great ways to start building a collection. And so we're going to go ahead and look at these events in that order, all in their own videos. So today will be Color Challenge, next will be Starter Deck Duels, and then finally we'll look into that jump-in category. And so you can see exactly what all of these different events are and how they can help you make yourself a better Magic player. So the basis behind the Color Challenge is that you now have these 5 starter decks that you unlocked at the end of the tutorial videos. You've got the white deck that you played throughout the tutorials, your blue deck featuring Jace Beleren, your black deck featuring Liliana Vess, your red deck featuring Chandra Nalaar, and Vivian Reed with your green deck. You don't need to know these names. They're just major planeswalkers within the greater Magic the Gathering storyline. If you follow the storyline, it honestly is pretty good. But we're not worried about that. We're worried about the actual decks themselves. So let's start off with Ajani here.
There is no greater treasure than quiet times with friends.
And so we will start to learn about what white means in Magic the Gathering. So there are 5 different colors of mana in Magic that we saw. White, blue, black, red, and green. And each color has its own identity within the game. And so the Color Challenge here is meant to show us that color identity, what this color excels at. And in doing so, we can also find out kind of what it's weak against. So if you can inspect the deck by clicking over here on the box, and you can see what different cards are in the deck. And so it's kind of a good idea to look at that real quick just to see what cards you have at your disposal. But ultimately, you can't really make any changes to this deck. So it kind of is what it is.
I protect those who cannot protect themselves.
And so we'll just go ahead and start off here versus the red deck. And so here it shows us that the red deck often uses many small creatures to overwhelm their opponent. And so that's what we are going to look for in this match. We are going to see what the red deck does and how the white deck can help to counter that. So he's already got, well, Chandra, already has a goblin out. Whenever Cadet becomes blocked, create a goblin, so we do have to worry about that a little bit. But if we're blocking that 1/1, we're probably killing it, so it kind of just replaces itself. Alright, so now we have a decision to make. We can play a Hallowed Priest, which does grow bigger as we gain life, but as of right now would just die to the Tin Streak Cadet. We have the Impassioned Orator. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, gain a life, which does kind of play with the Hollow Priest. And we have Moorland Inquisitor, which we can pay to give First Strike. First Strike means that it deals combat damage first. So if it was a bigger creature, like a 2/2 that might be able to kill the Inquisitor, that First Strike would prevent the Inquisitor from dying because the Inquisitor would do damage first, killing the 2/2, and it would not have a chance to deal damage back. In this situation, I think the Impassioned Order would be the best play here because it's a 2/2 body that would be able to successfully block the Tin Streak Cadet without dying. Plus, it sets up the life gain that the Hallowed Priest wants. Oh my. That is an enchantment on Chandra's side of the field. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment is going to deal 1 damage to me. So he could have attacked here, done 2 damage with the Raid Bombardment, but because we have that 2/2 body out that would kill her creatures, she's decided not to attack. So that gives us some time to build up the rest of our board with our Hallowed Priests. So as we see, whenever we gain life, it gets a +1 counter. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, we gain a life. So we can cast our Priest. It enters play. We'll gain a life. Because we gained a life, the Priest gets a +1 counter, and it is now a 2/2 creature. We could attack here with the Orator, but opponent can block with both of their creatures to kill it, and I kind of want to keep my source of life gain for my second Priest at least. So we were going to go ahead and not attack here and see what else opponent has. Alright, Minotaur is pretty big, so I am going to want to get a 3/3 out on the battlefield. And here we got another Orator. So the play here, I've got 4 mana, is definitely to do Orator plus Priest. But in which order is going to be the question. So I really don't think it matters which one we play first. But we're going to go ahead and do it this way. So those both trigger because we gain life. And now they both trigger again because we gain life. Do the math and let me know in the comments below which one would have made the bigger creature. So we can attack with our Hallowed Priest here. I do not want to attack with the Order, definitely, because the Minotaur will just kill it. But I can attack with my Priest here. He can block with everything. So it is possible that my Priest dies here, but I still think this is a solid attack. Because even blocking with everything, I get to kill their Minotaur, which is their biggest threat currently, their Tin Streak Cadet, and that leaves them with just a single 1/1 to attack me with. So I am trading my 1 creature for their 2 creatures, and so that is a favorable, we call it a 2-for-1 trade. So I've only got 5 mana here, so I can't cast the commander yet. I can go ahead and cast the Inquisitor if I want to. Although there is something to be said for waiting until next turn to cast the commander and then casting Inquisitor so that we can take advantage of commander's ability. But I think I would just like to have the body on the battlefield. So we're going to go ahead and cast Inquisitor, get us some triggers. And now he's only got the 1/1. So I think attacking with the orders is okay. So we will go ahead and swing out and see where opponent blocks. They're going to block the bigger creature, obviously, so that they don't take as much damage. That does wipe her board completely. Oh my, that is something big. Granted, I'm at 24 health, so a 4/4 doesn't really worry me too much. As we see, white is very good with gaining life off of the Orators and pumping creatures off of the Hallowed Priest. So that's something that we need to recognize as a white player, that these are our strengths. So even though they have a 4/4 dragon, we have a 5/5 priest that is just going to get bigger. And so now that we have 6 mana, we can cast our Inspiring Commander. Gain some life, throw our priest. And we can't block the dragon anyway, so there's no point in holding back defenders. The dragon cannot block us because it is tapped. And so there's really no reason here not to attack with everything. So we'll go ahead, we'll push through a bunch of damage, and that will actually threaten our opponent for lethal next turn. I don't think Chandra should have attacked there. She probably should have left up a blocker because this priest by itself is just lethal. But even then, not casting another creature, our other creatures are. So we are kind of just going through the motions here, casting spells just to get our triggers. And so even though red is good at flooding the board, white kind of is also. So as we see, we've got a lot of smaller creatures that we are able to pump up really big. I mean, I just cast him this turn, he's already a 4/4. My original priest is a 13/13. I mean, that is 13 damage coming at him every turn. Not that he's going to have any more turns left. And so there we kind of see white's strengths in getting a lot of small creatures on the board, pumping them up, while at the same time gaining enough life to keep us stable. Even through a 4/4 flyer that we couldn't block, we still ended the game with 24 life. And so that's the basis of the color challenge. So as you go through here, we'll go over the other colors too. So white versus black. Black often benefits from sending creatures to the graveyard. And so we get to see some different interplay there. Blue uses creatures with flying to avoid blockers. Green creatures are often bigger, so you'll need to use spells and abilities both to beat them. And then the final challenge 5 is just a random color. Oh, you play against another player using the white deck. So it should be an actual person that is running through the color challenge with you. Alright, and so this is the first time we see the mulligan button. A mulligan is basically a chance to redo your starting hand. So you do draw 7 cards. If you do not like these 7 cards, you can mulligan or throw them back, or you can keep them. If you do mulligan, then you will start with 1 fewer card by returning one card to the bottom of your library. So even though I do like this hand, I'll show you a mulligan. You throw it back, you get a new 7. And then you can choose to keep this 6. And so basically we go through and we pick out which our worst card is, which I definitely like the Angelic Guardian. But I think we will get rid of the tactical advantage by putting it back on the bottom of our library. So we did mulligan once, so we start with 6 cards. Had we mulliganed again, we would start with 5 by putting 2 cards back, and so on. Generally, you don't want to mulligan too much because you do want your cards to play with. And so this is playing against another real opponent. This is probably the first time that you'll have the opportunity to do so. And we see that he is playing red. So we get to look like we saw in that first match. Opponent playing a lot of small creatures to kind of flood the board and attack in. It looks like he might have some burn spells to deal with our creatures at instant or sorcery speed. And so we kind of really get to see all of the stuff we've been learning really play out. Alright, well he dealt with our first creature, so let's go ahead and play another one. And he's gonna kill that one too. Alright, maybe the kitty will be able to get through. I mean, surely you're not going to kill a poor little defenseless cat. Opponent, come on. And Raid Bombardment. Alright, well, he's going to have to play a creature eventually. So we'll just keep putting out more targets, because that's really all we can do. A second Raid Bombardment. Wow. Alright. And more creature removal. Alrighty. Cat number 2. Let's go. And opponent's last card is another removal spell. Alright. And looks like we are also out of creatures. So, this is gonna be fun. Oh, I didn't know that was in here. That's pretty brutal. Alright, looks like we have hit a land pocket, and this game is going south quickly. So with Urabrask's Forge, he gets that creature token every turn, and it does get bigger and bigger. But I've got an angel now. So now he can attack both creatures, and I can only block one of them. But he might not want to attack into a 5/5. Or he might want to attack into a 5/5. Well, let's go ahead and block the real creature, because the token is just going to keep coming back. Alright, so Guardian will give me the chance to regain 4 life, which is coincidentally how much damage he's going to do to me next turn. But I need to go on the offensive here, or else I am never going to win. So he's going to attack in for 4 damage this time. I could block with the Guardian, but I don't think I want to. So if I block with the Guardian, it's going to die. I think I would rather have the 3 damage to attack with. Alright. Alright. I think I'm just going to attack with the one, leave the other one back for defense. So he's going to get a 5 power attacker. Now, if he has another like shock spell, he could kill my Guardian. He had a pump spell. Alright. So I have to block this or I die. So I am definitely glad I left back a blocker. Unfortunately, I think I just die this next turn because I don't have anything else to block with. And yep, that's gonna be game, folks, because there's nothing else I can do. Even if I do get another creature out, he's got the trample there, so we'll go ahead and give our opponent a good game. Urabrask's Forge did beat me. This is one hell of a card, especially if you can put it down early. It just keeps pumping out bigger and bigger things. And opponent had enough removal to get rid of my early creatures, and there just wasn't anything I could do about that. So, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's important to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. We learned some things about Red, that they have a lot of creature removal, but win or lose, you should still get your card style. Plus, you get some wild cards that you can use to help craft your own deck out of that. And so after you have completed the white color challenge, you can head back in. We can check out blue, go into black, red, and green, and learn all about all of our other colors.
Manipulation of the mind.
And so we can see how blue plays with the aerial domination deck. We can see that it has bounce creatures, it's got walls, it's got different combat tricks. Whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield, it gains +1, so this deck does have a lot of flying spells. And so flying is just another way of getting around your opponent's blockers. Sleep spells to tap your opponent's creatures, and just different ways of interacting with your opponent. And so feel free to play around with the blue deck.
Care to meet my backup?
The black deck we saw synergizes off of creatures going to the graveyard. So we see with Sanger Vampire, whenever it kills something, it gets a +1 counter. Enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage to anything. That's a good way to start killing some things. Makes players sacrifice creatures. Equal the number of swamps, so that can be really big. And so we can see that the black likes to kill things, likes to grow bigger off of creatures dying. And it's got recursive threats like Sanitarium Skeleton. Whenever it does die, you can just pay 3 mana to bring it right back into your hand, cast it again. So feel free to play around with the black deck.
So much to do, so much to see. I'm fired up.
Alright, so this is our red deck. that we did see our opponent playing with, except this doesn't have Urabrask's Forge in it. But anyway, we get to see that the red deck has those early goblins, those early burn spells that we saw, along with the raid bombardments and such, until you can get up to your higher levels, which do pump up your goblins. Whenever creatures enter the battlefield, it gets haste, so it can attack immediately. Siege Dragon deals 2 damage to each creature without flying. I mean, that's just a really big finisher. Your Volcanic Dragons and whatnot that we saw earlier. So yeah, these, go ahead, play with the red deck.
The wild wasn't meant to be contained.
And finally, your green deck, we get a whole lot of really big creatures here. Gigantosaurus, the aptly named 10/10 creature. Rumbling Baloths are 4/4s. Pack Hunters, grow your other Pack Hunters. Indrik, whenever it enters the battlefield, it fights something. Enchanted creature gains +5 in Trample. Trample, I don't think we really went over, means that any excess combat damage is dealt to the player. So normally with a Gigantosaurus, it's a 10/10 creature. All 10 damage is going to be dealt to the blocker. So you could block it with a Jungle Delver, a 1/1 creature for 1, and all 10 damage would go onto the Jungle Delver. With a creature with Trample, like Rampaging Brontodon, this 7/7 creature, whenever it attacks, that 7 damage, if it gets blocked by a Jungle Delver, the Jungle Delver will take the 1 damage that it takes to kill it, and the other 6 damage from the Rampaging Brontodon will then trample over that creature and hit the player directly. So, trample is another very good mechanic that you need to keep in mind, especially when you've got bigger creatures. In this case, the 7/7 with trample is going to be better than the 10/10 without, because a 1/1 can block a 10/10, a 1/1 not so good at blocking a 7/7 with trample. And so go ahead and play around with the green deck as well. It's got not only big creatures, reach creatures, but also ways to pump them with Stony Strength. It gets a +1 counter, so that's a permanent buff on that creature. Rabid Bite is a way for, is your green version of removal spells, where a creature deals its power to another creature. And so kind of go ahead and see how green plays. We also get Mana Ramp in the form of Woodland Mystic and Elysian Caryatid. And so those are all ways of getting out your bigger threats faster. And so yeah, go ahead and play around with your green deck and see how that works out for you. And find out what colors you most harmonize with, what colors you play best with. And let me know in the comments below which of these colors is your favorite. And if you want me to do a detailed walkthrough of all 5 colors, I can do that too. Just let me know in the comments below. This video was just going to be a basic overview of what the color challenge is, so that you can go ahead and start earning your magic chops. So if this video was helpful to you, let me know. Give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and check out the rest of the playlist. And I will see y'all in the next video.